walked slowly through station's crowded main corridor. His metal leg clicked against the floor with each step. The old war wound still hurt every day, even 3 years after the doctors had saved what was left of his real leg. The bombing on Europa Station had taken more than just his leg. It had taken his career, his confidence, and most of his hope. The space station buzzed with activity. Merchants from a dozen different worlds shouted about their goods. Blue-skinned carried heavy cargo on their backs. The crystal beings called floated past, making musical sounds as they moved. Massive workers stomped by in their thick boots, making the metal floor shake. Had seen stations like this during his 22 years as a soldier, but now he was just another broken veteran looking for work. His pension barely covered food and cheap hotels. The war against the Empire had ended 2 years ago, but nobody seemed to need old soldiers anymore. He stopped at a food stand and bought a protein bar with some of his last credits. The alien vendor looked at his faded military jacket and nodded with respect. At least some people still remembered what human soldiers had done during the war. As walked toward the job posting area, something caught his attention. Near the waste disposal units, in a dark corner that most people ignored, someone was digging through garbage. Looked closer and saw it was a child. The child had pale blue skin and delicate features that recognized. She was one of the peaceful species that had joined the galactic community 50 years ago. But this child looked terrible. Her clothes were torn and dirty. She was so thin that her ribs showed through holes in her shirt. What shocked most were her eyes. They were completely white without any pupils or color. The child was blind. The little girl moved her hands carefully through the trash, searching for anything she could eat. Despite not being able to see, she moved with surprising grace and precision. She seemed to know exactly where everything was around her. Looked around the busy corridor. Hundreds of beings walked past every minute, but nobody stopped to help. In fact, they seemed to avoid even looking at the child. Others who passed by acted like she did not exist at all. This made angry. During the war, he had seen too many children suffer and die. Human children, alien children, it did not matter. A hungry child was still a hungry child. He could not just walk away and pretend he had not seen her. Approached the corner slowly. He did not want to frighten the girl. When his shadow fell across her, she immediately stopped moving. Her head turned toward him with perfect accuracy, even though she could not see him. "It's okay," said gently. "I won't hurt you." The girl stayed very still, like a small animal ready to run. Could see she was prepared to flee if he made any sudden movements. Slowly reached into his pocket and pulled out the protein bar he had just bought. It was supposed to be his dinner, but watching this child search through garbage made his stomach hurt in a different way. "Are you hungry?" asked softly. The girl tilted her head, listening to his voice carefully. After a long moment, she gave a small nod. Knelt down on the metal floor, his prosthetic leg making a soft clicking sound. He placed the protein bar on the ground between them and moved back a little to give her space. The girl reached out carefully until her fingers touched the food. She grabbed it quickly and held it close to her chest, like someone might try to take it away. "What's your name?" asked. The girl was quiet for a very long time, began to think she would not answer. Then she spoke in a voice so small he almost missed it. "Lyra." Her standard galactic was broken but clear enough to understand. Guess she was about 9 or 10 years old, though it was hard to tell with alien children. He said. "How long have you been alone here?" Lyra thought about this question for a while. "Many sleeps, I stopped counting." Felt his anger growing. How could anyone leave a blind child to survive on her own in a place like this? Station was dangerous enough for adults. For a child, especially one who could not see, it was a death trap. "Where is your family?" asked as gently as he could. Lyra's face became very sad. "No family, they left me here." Had seen terrible things during the war. He had watched friends die and cities burn, but somehow this felt worse. At least in combat he could fight back. Here, there was just a hungry child and a galaxy full of people who did not care. "Have you eaten today?" asked. Lyra shook her head. She was still holding the protein bar but had not opened it yet. Maybe she was saving it, not knowing when she might find food again. "Go ahead and eat," said. "I can get more food." This was a lie. That protein bar had been his only meal plan for the day. But watching Lyra carefully unwrap the food and take tiny bites made him feel better than he had in months. While she ate, studied her hiding spot. The corner was hidden from most of the station traffic. It was near the waste units, so it would smell bad, but it offered some protection from the weather and the crowds. Lyra had chosen her hiding place well. "Do you have somewhere safe to sleep?" asked. Lyra pointed to a small gap behind the waste disposal unit. It was barely big enough for a child to curl up in. The thought of this little girl spending nights there alone made feel sick. "That's not good enough," said, more to himself than to her. Lyra finished eating and carefully folded the wrapper. Even the trash might be useful to her later. Made a decision that would change both their lives forever. "Come with me," he said, standing up slowly. Lyra looked scared. "Where?" "To get you real food and a warm place to sleep." "Why would you do that?" Lyra asked. It was such a simple question, but it hit like a punch to the chest. Thought about all the children he had failed to save during the war. All the ones who had died while he was fighting on distant worlds. Maybe he could not bring them back, but he could save this one. "Because leaving you here would be wrong," he said simply. Lyra listened to his voice for a long moment. She seemed to be hearing something in his words that went beyond their meaning. Finally, she stood up carefully and took a small step toward him. "Okay," she whispered. Smiled for the first time in weeks. Led Lyra through the station's lower levels to a small hotel he had noticed earlier. The place was cheap and not very clean, but it was safe and warm. The room had 2 narrow beds and a tiny bathroom with a shower that actually worked. Lyra stood just inside the doorway, not moving. Realized this might be the first real room she had been in for a very long time. "This is where we'll stay tonight," said softly. "You can use whichever bed you want." Lyra moved slowly into the room, her hands touching the walls as she went. Watched her carefully map out the space in her mind. She found both beds, the small table, and the bathroom door. Once she understood where everything was, her movements became smooth and confident. "Are you still hungry?" asked. Lyra nodded quickly. Could see she was trying not to seem too eager, but her body betrayed how desperately she needed food. Left her in the room and went to find better food than protein bars. He returned with hot soup, fresh bread, and some fruit. Real food that would actually fill her stomach and give her body what it needed. Lyra ate very slowly and carefully. Could tell she was trying not to eat too fast, probably because her stomach was not used to real meals anymore. She also kept looking toward the door, like she expected someone to come in and take the food away. "No one is going to take it," said gently. "Eat as much as you want." While she ate, asked careful questions about her situation. What he learned made him angrier with each answer. "How long were you on the streets before I found you?" asked. "Maybe 40 days, Lyra said between careful bites of soup. "I tried to count, but some days I slept too much." "What happened to your family? Why did they leave you?" Lyra stopped eating and looked down at her hands. Children with broken eyes bring shame to their families. The only way to remove the shame is to leave the broken child where it cannot hurt the family anymore. Stared at her. "They abandoned you because you're blind." "It is our way," Lyra said simply. "Families must protect themselves from genetic shame." Had worked with many alien species during his military career. He thought he understood how different cultures handled disabilities and genetic conditions. But this was something entirely new and horrible. "Where I come from, Families protect their children who need help the most, said firmly. This seemed to confuse Lyra greatly. But how can families keep broken children? The shame would spread to everyone. You're not broken, said. You're just different. Lyra tilted her head like she was trying to understand a completely foreign concept. Realized she had been taught her entire life that being blind made her worthless and dangerous to others. Over the next few days, learned more about Lyra's remarkable abilities. Despite being blind, she could navigate the station's corridors better than most people with perfect vision. She used sound to create detailed mental maps of her surroundings. How do you know there are 15 people in that crowd over there? Asked as they walked through a marketplace. I listened to their breathing, their footsteps, the way sounds bounce off their bodies, Lyra explained. Each person makes a different sound pattern. Watched her demonstrate. She made a soft clicking sound with her tongue, then pointed to a stack of cargo boxes 50 feet away. 6 boxes, metal, 3 are empty, 3 are full of something soft. Counted the boxes and checked them. She was exactly right. That's incredible, said. All do this, Lyra said, looking confused by his amazement. All blind. All, but families say those with broken eyes do it too much. It makes other people uncomfortable. Began to understand. Lyra's blindness had not taken away her abilities. It had enhanced them. Her people saw this as wrong somehow, but saw it as remarkable. As the days passed, noticed how other people on the station treated them. Shop owners refused to serve them when Lyra was present. Other aliens would cross to the other side of walkways to avoid them. Even the hotel staff gave them unfriendly looks. Decided to contact government offices to report an abandoned child. Every official he spoke to hung up as soon as he mentioned Lyra was blind. Finally, one administrator stayed on the communication line long enough to explain. With genetic defects are not recognized in our official records. If such a child appears abandoned, it is because no such child exists legally. But she's real, argued. She needs help. I cannot provide assistance for something that does not exist, the official said coldly before ending the call. Was stunned. An entire species was pretending their blind children simply did not exist. They had created a system where abandoning disabled children was not just acceptable but legally invisible. That night, Lyra taught something that helped him sleep better than he had since the war ended. She showed him breathing techniques that used sound and rhythm to calm the mind. For the first time in years, slept without nightmares about the war. Why do you help me? Lyra asked the next morning over breakfast. Thought carefully about his answer. During the war, I couldn't save everyone who needed help. Maybe I can't change the whole galaxy, but I can help you. But helping broken things brings shame to the helper too, Lyra said. Other people will think less of you. I don't care what other people think, said firmly. You're not broken, and helping you doesn't bring me shame. It makes me feel proud. Lyra listened to his voice very carefully. Was learning that she could hear emotions in people's voices much better than most people could see them in faces. You really believe I am not broken, she said. It was not a question. I know you're not broken. Lyra was quiet for a long time. Then maybe I do not have to feel ashamed anymore. You never had to feel ashamed. Started teaching Lyra basic self-defense techniques. Her enhanced hearing made her incredibly aware of anyone approaching. She could detect threats from much farther away than people with normal hearing. Humans learn to fight, Lyra asked as showed her how to escape if someone grabbed her. Smart humans learn to protect themselves and the people they care about. You care about me. The question surprised. Somewhere during their week together, this small alien girl had become the most important thing in his life. He had not realized how much until she asked. Yes, he said without hesitation, I care about you very much. Lyra reached out and found his hand. Her small fingers were warm and strong. "I care about you too." For the first time since the war ended, felt like his life had real purpose again. Protecting Lyra was not just something nice he was doing. It was something he needed to do, like breathing. But as more days passed, began to notice they were being watched. People in dark clothes followed them through the station. Officials asked questions about them at the hotel desk. His old soldier instincts told him trouble was coming. Did not know what these watchers wanted, but he knew they meant danger for Lyra, and he would die before he let anyone hurt her. First noticed the watchers on their 5th day together. A man in a dark coat stood near the communication booths, pretending to read news on a data pad. But's military training told him the man was really watching them. "Stay close," whispered to Lyra as they walked through the market area. "Someone follows us," Lyra said quietly. "Same footsteps for 3 days. He tries to walk softly, but his left shoe squeaks." Was not surprised that Lyra had noticed first. Her hearing was much better than his eyes. "How many different people have been following us?" "3 different ones, sometimes 2 at the same time. One stays near our hotel, another follows when we go out." That evening, decided to test something. He left Lyra safely locked in their hotel room and went for a walk alone. Sure enough, one watcher followed him while another stayed positioned where he could see their hotel room. The watchers were definitely interested in Lyra, not him. The next morning tried to book passage off station for both of them. The travel agent, a nervous-looking, examined their identification and shook his head sadly. "The human can travel anywhere," the agent said, "but the child cannot leave without proper genetic documentation." "What kind of documentation?" asked. "Family bloodline records, genetic purity certificates, medical clearance from health ministry." The agent's voice became quieter. "This child has none of these documents." Leaned closer. "What happens to children without documentation?" The agent looked around nervously and would not answer directly, but his fear told everything he needed to know. Something very bad happened to undocumented children. That afternoon, contacted his old friend Jake. Jake had worked in military intelligence during the war and still had access to restricted information systems. "I need you to research something for me," said over a secure communication channel. "The species and how they treat disabled children." "That's an unusual request. What's going on?" Explained about finding Lyra and the abandonment practice he had discovered. Jake was quiet for several minutes after finished. "Give me some time to dig into this," Jake said. "Something about your story doesn't sound right." While waiting for Jake's report, did his own research in the station's public information center. What he found made him very uncomfortable. The practice of abandoning blind children was not ancient tradition. It had only started about 50 years ago, exactly when they joined Galactic Society. Before that time, historical records showed that blind were often honored as having special spiritual gifts. Something had changed dramatically in recent years, and did not think it was natural cultural evolution. Jake called back that evening with disturbing news. "This is much bigger than cultural practice," Jake said. His voice sounded worried. "I searched all official databases for adult blind. Do you know how many I found?" "How many?" "0. Not a single adult blind anywhere in known space." Felt cold. "That's impossible. Blindness is genetic. It should affect some percentage of any population." "Exactly. Even if families abandon blind children, some should survive and grow up somewhere. But there are no records anywhere. No hospitals, no immigration records, no census data. Nothing." "What does that mean?" "It means they're all dying young, or someone is making them disappear." Looked at Lyra, who was sitting on her bed practicing the meditation techniques she had taught him. The idea that someone might want to hurt this innocent child made him feel sick with rage. "There's more," Jake continued. I found some classified information about recent political changes. Their current government came to power 50 years ago with heavy financial support from several large galactic corporations. What kind of corporations? Medical research companies, specifically ones that work on genetic modification and neural enhancement projects. Military mind immediately understood the connection. They're taking the children for experiments. That's what I think too. And I ran some genetic analysis on information you gave me about your girl. Her genetic markers show she's from one of the most important noble families. She should be living in luxury, not searching through garbage. Why would noble families abandon their own children? Maybe they didn't abandon her. Maybe someone took her and made it look like abandonment. Felt his anger growing into something dangerous. If someone had kidnapped Lyra and experimented on her, they would pay for it. Jake's voice became urgent. I'm seeing activity in the system. Someone else has been searching for information about your girl. They know where you are. Before could respond, he heard a soft chime from their room's door. Someone was requesting entry. Looked through the security viewer and saw two officials in dark uniforms standing in the corridor. They're here, whispered into his communicator. Quickly ended the call and gently woke Lyra. Her white eyes opened immediately and she sat up, fully alert. What's wrong? She whispered. We have visitors. How many people can you hear outside? Lyra listened carefully for several seconds. 2 at our door. 4 more at the corridor exits. 2 others on the level below us, probably watching for us to escape through maintenance areas. The door chimed again, more loudly this time. A voice called through the door. We are here about the child. Please open the door so we can discuss this peacefully. Made a quick decision. He had noticed maintenance access panels in their room that connected to the station's service tunnel system. If they moved quickly, they might be able to escape before the officials realized they were gone. Can you crawl through small dark spaces very quietly? Whispered to Lyra. Yes, where are we going? Away from here, while I figure out what these people really want. Quietly opened a maintenance panel. The tunnel beyond was dark and narrow, but Lyra's blindness would not handicap her there. In fact, she would probably navigate better than he would. Hold onto my belt and follow me, whispered. Stay completely quiet no matter what you hear. They crawled into the tunnel just as the officials began forcing their way into the room. Through the thin walls, could hear them searching angrily and calling for backup. In the darkness of the maintenance tunnels, with Lyra's small hand gripping his belt, realized their situation was much more dangerous than he had thought. These people were not just cultural authorities enforcing abandonment traditions. They had the resources and organization of a major operation. But had spent over 20 years fighting against impossible odds. He had survived battles where his entire unit was outnumbered and now he had something more important to fight for than military objectives or political goals. As they crawled through the tunnels toward an uncertain destination, made a silent promise to himself and to Lyra. Whatever these people wanted with her, they would have to kill him first. And after 22 years as a soldier, was very hard to kill. Behind them, he could hear the officials calling for station security and sealing off corridor exits. They were trapped in the maintenance system, but at least they were free for now. Just hoped it would be long enough to figure out what was really happening and how to stop it. And Lyra crawled through the maintenance tunnels for over 2 hours before finding a safe hiding place. A forgotten storage room deep in the station's lower levels provided temporary shelter. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows, but Lyra did not need light to see anyway. Are you hurt? Asked, checking her carefully for injuries. No, but I am frightened, Lyra admitted. Who were those officials? Why do they want me? I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out, promised. Tried to contact Jake again. The signal was weak in the deep levels, but eventually connected with crackling static. Thank God, Jake's voice came through the interference. I've been monitoring security frequencies. They're tearing the station apart looking for you too. Who are they exactly? Mixed group. Some government officials, but also corporate security from a company called Genesis Biotech. They have legal authorization to take the girl into protective custody. Felt his blood turn cold. He had heard of Genesis Biotech during the war. They were known for doing illegal research on prisoners and captured enemies. Jake, I need you to check something. Can you access the station's layout plans and find any hidden facilities, places that wouldn't show up on public maps? Give me a few minutes to hack into their system. While Jake searched, studied Lyra more carefully. Her abilities were much stronger than she had originally described. Her hearing was precise enough to navigate in complete darkness. Her spatial awareness was almost supernatural. Lyra, have you always been able to hear and navigate as well as you do now? Lyra thought about this question. I remember being different after the healing center. His heart nearly stopped. What healing center? Before my family brought me here, I was very sick. They took me to a healing center with white walls and strange machines. I slept for many days. When I woke up, I could hear much better than before. Do you remember anything else about this place? There were other children there, all with white eyes like mine. Some were crying all the time. The healers said they were making us better. Lyra's voice became smaller, but it did not feel like a good place. Felt sick. What happened to the other children? I do not know. I woke up alone. The healers said my family had come to take me home, but when we left, my family seemed different. They would not look at me or touch me. His communicator buzzed with Jake's voice. You need to hear this. I found a hidden section of the station that doesn't appear on any public plans. It's listed as a medical research facility, but it's completely off the official records. Where is it? Lower level 8, behind the main power generators. The facility connects to the waste disposal systems. That's probably how they move things without being detected. What kind of things? I hacked into their supply records. They order equipment for brain surgery, genetic modification devices, and containment cells sized for children. Closed his eyes, feeling rage build in his chest. It's an experimentation facility. That's what it looks like, and there's more. I found transport records. They've been moving children off this station for months, always at night, always through hidden routes. Looked at Lyra, who was listening to their conversation with growing fear. The abandonment tradition isn't real, said slowly. They're taking blind children for medical experiments. It gets worse, Jake continued. I found classified files about your girl specifically. She's not just any test subject. According to the records, she's their most successful experimental case. Her brain modifications exceeded all their expectations. Brain modifications. They enhanced her neural pathways to process sound and spatial information. But something went wrong with the memory suppression procedure. She escaped before they could complete the process. Stared at Lyra with new understanding. Her incredible abilities were not natural. They were the result of illegal brain surgery performed when she was even younger. Jake, we have to stop this. Be careful. These people have unlimited money and government protection. You're just one veteran with no resources. Before could respond, he heard sounds in the corridor outside their hiding place. Multiple sets of boots moving in military formation. They found us, whispered. No, Lyra said, listening more carefully. They are going past us, down the corridor, then down more levels. Listened. She was right. The footsteps were moving away from them, heading toward the lower levels where Jake had said the hidden facility was located. They're going to the laboratory, realized. They think we might try to attack it. Are we going to attack it? Jake asked through the communicator. Thought quickly. Jake, can you create a distraction? something that will draw security forces away from the facility. What do you have in mind? Emergency alarms in the upper levels. Make them think there's a serious crisis that needs all available security. I can do that remotely, but what are you planning? Looked at Lyra, who was listening with an expression of determination that seemed too mature for a child her age. I'm going to get evidence, pictures, files, recordings, anything that will prove what they're doing to these children. Then I'm going to make sure the whole galaxy sees it. That's suicide. Even if you get inside, they'll kill you before you can transmit anything. Maybe, but I have to try. Turn to Lyra. I need to go to the place where they hurt you. It's going to be very dangerous. I will come with you, Lyra said firmly. Absolutely not, it's too dangerous. You cannot navigate their facility without me, Lyra pointed out. I remember the sounds of that place. I know where they keep the children. I know which rooms have the important machines. Realized she was right. His military training would help with the security aspects, but Lyra knew the facility like a battlefield veteran knows terrain. If we do this, you follow my orders exactly, said. No questions, no arguments, promise me. I promise. Checked his equipment. He had his military stunner and some basic tools. Not much against a fully equipped research facility, but it would have to be enough. 20 minutes later, Jake triggered emergency alarms throughout the upper levels of station. Fire suppression systems activated. Emergency crews rushed to respond to multiple false alerts. Security forces abandoned their posts to help with the crisis. And Lyra moved through the maintenance tunnels toward their destination. With each step, felt his resolve strengthening. These monsters had stolen children from their families. They had performed illegal brain surgery on kids like Lyra. They had turned her own enhanced abilities into weapons against her. It was time to stop them. As they approached the hidden facility, Lyra whispered urgently, I can hear machines running, and voices, and she stopped, her face going pale. What? Children crying. They still have children in their right now. His jaw tightened with cold fury. This was not just about getting evidence anymore. There were kids in that facility who were being tortured the same way Lyra had been tortured. Had spent his entire military career protecting innocent people from monsters. Tonight, he would do it one last time, and this time he would not fail. The hidden facility was much larger than had expected. Through ventilation grates, he could see long white corridors filled with medical equipment and computer terminals. Scientists in lab coats moved between rooms carrying strange instruments and data files. How many children do you hear? Whispered to Lyra. Lyra listened carefully, using her enhanced abilities to map the entire facility through sound. 14 children, all very young. Most are sleeping, but some are awake and scared. Felt his hands shake with anger. 14 children were being held and experimented on while the galaxy ignored their suffering. Where are the main computer systems? Asked. Big room with many humming machines, third corridor from here, Lyra said immediately. Only one scientist there now. Activated his communicator one final time. Jake, are you ready to receive data transmission? Standing by. But once you start uploading files, they'll trace the signal back to you in minutes. Then we better work fast. And Lyra crawled through air vents until they reached the computer room. Through the grate, could see rows of servers and workstations. One tired scientist sat alone, working on experiment data. Dropped silently into the room and stunned the scientist before he could call for help. Lyra followed with perfect quiet despite not being able to see. Watch the corridor, told her as he accessed the main computer system. What found in the research files was worse than his darkest fears. Genesis Biotech had been kidnapping blind children for over 40 years. They told families the children had died from genetic complications. Meanwhile, The children were secretly brought to facilities like this one for neural experimentation. The goal was to create enhanced soldiers with superhuman abilities. The company used the children's natural echolocation as a base, then surgically modified their brains to boost these abilities far beyond normal levels. Most children died during the operations. The survivors had their memories erased and were used as test subjects for military research. But the files revealed something else. The project was mostly a failure. The enhanced children were too psychologically damaged to function as soldiers. Many became insane from the brain modifications. Others died from complications. Except for one child, Lyra. Her brain had adapted to the modifications better than any other subject. Her abilities far exceeded their highest expectations. She could navigate in complete darkness, hear through solid walls, and sense spatial relationships with impossible precision. Most importantly, she had kept her sanity and personality intact. The scientists called her Project 07, the perfect success. Began copying files as fast as possible, uploading everything to Jake's secure servers. Evidence of kidnappings, illegal experiments, government conspiracy, and corporate crimes. "Someone comes," Lyra whispered urgently. Heard multiple footsteps approaching fast. He grabbed his stunner and positioned himself by the door. "How many?" he whispered. "6 people, 4 have weapons, 2 are scientists." The door burst open and armed security guards rushed in. Stunned 2 immediately, but the others took cover behind computer equipment. Energy weapon fire filled the room, destroying servers and triggering alarm systems. "Data upload is only 70% complete," shouted to Jake through his communicator. "Keep going. I'm already broadcasting what I have on emergency networks." Pulled Lyra behind a bank of computers as more weapon fire erupted around them. The scientists were shouting orders to capture them alive. "They need me back," Lyra said, understanding immediately. "They're not getting you," replied firmly. But their situation seemed hopeless. More security forces arrived every minute. Stunner was running low on power. They were trapped with no way out. Then heard something that changed everything. Heavy military boots running through the facility corridors. Not the soft shoes of corporate security, but the combat boots of real soldiers. "This is Commander Sarah Martinez, Terran Defense Corps." A voice shouted over the facility's communication system. "By authority of the Galactic Criminal Court, this facility is under military arrest." Jake had not just sent the evidence to news networks. He had transmitted it directly to his former military unit. The entire Terran Defense Corps had mobilized to shut down the illegal research program. The weapon fire stopped as Genesis Biotech Security realized they were now facing trained combat soldiers instead of one veteran and a child. Stood up carefully with his hands visible. "Commander Martinez here. Good to hear your voice. We received your data transmission. This story is causing chaos across the entire galaxy." Within 30 minutes, the facility was swarming with Terran Defense Corps soldiers. They arrested all the scientists, freed the 14 children, and secured the research equipment as criminal evidence. Found Commander Martinez in the main laboratory, directing the rescue operation. She was a professional soldier with gray hair and the confident bearing of someone who had commanded troops in real combat. "The evidence you sent is destroying governments," she told. 5 different world leaders have already resigned. Genesis Biotech's financial value has collapsed to nothing. Intelligence agencies are reporting similar facilities on dozens of other planets. "What about the children?" "All 14 are being taken to proper medical centers for treatment and recovery. The younger ones will probably heal completely. The older ones," she shook her head sadly, "we'll do everything possible for them." Looked around for Lyra and found her sitting with several other rescued children. She was speaking to them quietly in the language. helping them stay calm while medical teams examined them. "What about her?" Commander Martinez asked, following his gaze. "Her name is Lyra. She's the one who made this discovery possible. According to our research, she's genetically related to one of the most important noble families. Her real parents have been searching for her for months. They thought she was dead." Felt a stab of sadness. Of course, Lyra would want to return to her biological family now that the truth was known. But when officials arrived to reunite the children with their families, something unexpected happened. Lyra's parents were among the officials, a dignified couple who broke down crying when they saw their daughter alive. But when they asked Lyra to come home with them, she refused. "I want to stay with," she said firmly. "He protected me when everyone else abandoned me." Her parents argued that she belonged with her birth family, but Lyra would not change her mind. After long negotiations, they reached a compromise. Lyra would spend time learning about her heritage while maintaining her relationship with the human who had saved her life. 1 year later, received a message that made him smile for days. Lyra had been accepted into the Galactic Space Navigation Academy as their first blind student. Her enhanced spatial abilities made her the most gifted navigator anyone had ever encountered. The message included a video of Lyra standing proudly in her academy uniform. "I am learning to guide ships through hyperspace. My teachers say I can detect things in space that no one else can sense. They believe I might change how all ships travel between stars." Saved the video and watched it whenever he missed her. He had found work as a child protection specialist, helping rescue kids who had been victims of trafficking and exploitation. The work was meaningful and the pay was adequate. But the real reward came in regular messages from Lyra. Updates about her training, stories about her achievements, and always the same ending. "Thank you for showing me I was never broken." Had begun by trying to help one hungry child on a space station. That simple act of kindness had exposed a galaxy-wide conspiracy and saved hundreds of children from horrible fates. More importantly, it had taught him that the most significant battles are not fought with armies and weapons, but with ordinary people refusing to ignore suffering. In a galaxy full of different species and cultures, some truths remained universal. Children deserved protection. Family meant more than genetics. And sometimes, one person who refuses to walk away can change everything. Kept a photograph of Lyra on his desk, taken the day she graduated as the top student in her academy class. In the picture, she was smiling, her white eyes bright with confidence and hope. She had never been broken. She had always been extraordinary, and now the entire galaxy knew it.